Okay, so welcome to today's webinar. Today we are going to be looking at some top tips for how to use Outlook. So you should be able to hear me okay, hopefully, and you should be able to see me and the slides. At the moment it's just a sort of welcome slide. And at the top of your screen you should see a sort of control panel where you'll be able to find your audio settings. So if you get any problems with sound, that's where to have a look. And there's also a chat button there. If you click on that chat button, you should get a sort of panel down the right hand side of your screen. And if you just let me know that you can hear me okay. So just let me know where you're from. Let me know where you are today in that chat box, just so that I know that one, you can hear me, and two, you've found that box that we're going to use to communicate throughout today. Okay, so welcome. We've got Hazel from Blairgowrie, I think. Karen, you're just up the road in Auchterarder. Great, glad you can hear me. And Douglas from sunny Angus. Nice to see you, Douglas. There are a few others not quite found the chat box yet, but hopefully you'll find it as we go through today's webinar. So this is how we're going to communicate during the workshop. So any questions you have at any time, any comments or anything at all that you want to share, then please just pop your, just type in some text in that chat box, and that's how we'll communicate. Okay, so like I said, my name's Jennifer Lindsay Finnan of River Park. And because it's Learning at Work Week, I decided to do some webinars for free, just really to encourage people to learn a wee bit more and brush up on their skills. And I was talking to someone earlier about using Outlook or Excel and things like that. And we only ever know what we know, so most of us are self-taught and we do the same things day in, day out, and we don't really pay any attention to any of the other features that are around. So what these webinars are for is just to let you know that there are probably other things, other buttons available to you that most of us are just too scared to press. So I'm going to be taking you through my top 10 tips on using Outlook. So like I said, please use that chat box to ask any questions at any time, share any tips that you have, practice. So if you are feeling confident with the way that the system's all set up this morning, you can minimise the screen, minimise your browser, and then you won't actually see what I'm doing, but you'll be able to hear me, and you can have your Outlook open and sort of click along with it if that would help you. Some people find that helps and other people find that's too confusing, so if that's the case, then don't worry about it, just sit back and listen. After the webinar, you will receive an email with a recording. Technology all being well, you'll receive a recording and you'll receive a handout that goes along with this webinar that lists each of the different tips with screenshots on how to actually use them. So you can always print that out and you know, refer to that later. Okay, so these are the top 10 tips that I'm going to walk us all through today. So having a look at that list, let me know in the chat box if any of these are sort of jumping out at you, any of these that you think, gosh, I think that looks like something I need to know about. Just let me know in the chat box if there's any in particular that you're really keen to learn today. Okay, so Douglas, you're saying 5 and 6, assigning tasks and setting up some rules. Yep, okay. Fab. Anyone else, or just a general overview for everyone? Okay, I'm going to just work my way through all of them anyway. Karen, you're looking for quick steps. Okay, so we're going to be using Outlook 2016. We're going to use the Windows version today. So some of these tips are not available on Mac. I think all of these tips will be available if you're using about 2007 onwards. So hopefully there's something for everyone. So I'm going to just get rid of the slides and share my desktop with you so that we can work our way through each of these tips. So I'm going to just do the first couple and then we'll come back to the slide to do a bit of a recap, and then we'll go back to my desktop to do the rest. Okay, but please jump into that chat box if you've got any questions at all. Okay, so let me just stop the video and share my desktop. Okay, so you should be able to see what should look fairly familiar to you using Outlook. And yeah, this is an inbox in Outlook, and you'll see that I've got it set up in my own particular way, I suppose. I've got it set up with no reading pane visible, no previews or anything like that, because that's just how I prefer to see my inbox. If you do have a preview pane, you can switch that off by going to View and then changing the reading pane to Off. It's completely up to you. I know lots of people do like it. But if you switch that off, then it will allow you to make more use of sorting your inbox. So to sort something, this is my first tip. Tip number 1 is around sorting the columns. So I think by default, you'll always receive your emails, your latest email up at the top here. If I wanted to sort by who the message was from, I'd just click on the column heading. It's as simple as that, and then it sorts it alphabetically for me. And that makes it really easy just to scroll through your inbox or any other folder and find things really quickly. So I'm going to just put it back to received so that I've got all my received from things up at the top. That might be a really obvious tip, but you know, I go in and train in different companies, and you know, there are some people that don't even know that you can do that as easily as that. So if you're looking for something with an attachment, for example, if you click on that paperclip, it would bring all the attachments to the top. I don't have any in this particular folder, but it would bring them all together. So that's a really easy way of finding things. I'm going to move on to tip number 2 already, which is flags. I use flags all the time because emails come in to my inbox, and just because someone emails me doesn't mean that I'm going to action that email straight away. So sometimes it's better for me just to read the email, you know, have a rough idea of what it is they're looking for or what it is I need to do, and I'll just flag it so that I can deal with it later. Let me know in the chat box rather, if anyone actually uses flags. Just type into that chat box if you flag emails from time to time. So Hazel, you do. Oh, Karen does as well. Okay, so most of you are using flags, so that's great. So if I just flag a couple of emails, I can do it within the email. I can click on a flag, or I can do it straight from here as well. So I might just flag another couple as well. And then what I can do, because we know how to sort columns, is I can actually sort it on flags, and it brings everything that I have to do right to the very top. So I can keep all my flags together. And that means that I don't lose sight of what it is I've still to action, because they're all in the same place. So my top tip is using flags. Now I just simply flag them. They're either flagged or they're not, but you do have these options here. So you can flag it for a particular time frame, and of course you can customize the flag so that it's got an actual due date, and you can customize the reminder as well. So have a look at that. Okay, Karen's just said that you're not actually using Outlook, you're using Hotmail. It's a very similar thing, Karen. So some of these features that we're talking about, you will actually find in the online version. So some of these might be relevant for you, but unfortunately it's not the same thing. So So yeah, hopefully you'll find a few things that might work, but the majority of them, I'm afraid, are not going to work for you. So sorry about that, Karen. Okay, that was tip number 2 around flags. And it's not necessarily just clicking the button flagged that's the tip. The tip is, I suppose, to keep them all together and remember to unflag them or mark them as completed once you've actually dealt with them. So you can sort by flags, and you can also filter by flags as well. So there's this filter button up at the top here, filter email, and I can filter by flagged, and I can see them all there. And sometimes that's good if I've just got a spare hour or 2 in the day, and I'm just going to blitz my emails and get rid of all the different flags. I can filter it so that it's not distracting me with anything else that's going on in my inbox. Okay, I'm going to move on now to tip number 3, which is categories. So let me know in the chat box, does anyone use categories to sort of colour code things? Let me know in the chat box if that's something that you are already using. Okay, so most of you are not using categories yet. So most of you are not using categories, that's fine. Categories are up here, and you can actually use categories in emails, calendar entries, you can use it on tasks, you can colour code your contacts, completely up to you how you use them. I tend not to colour code my emails. As you'll see here, nothing's got a category assigned to it. But if I wanted to, I can just open up an email and categorise it different colour. So I'm just going to do a couple here up at the top. Okay, so I've got 3 different colours there, and you'll notice that that doesn't have any impact on my inbox at the moment. That's because I've not got a category column here. So to get a category column, if I'm on a Mac, I would right click and then just tick the heading categories, and that would insert a category column there. But I'm on Windows at the moment, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose View Settings. I'm going to click on Columns, and then I'm going to go and find Categories here on the left hand side and add it across so that it's on the right hand side. And I probably want it before Received, so I'm just going to move it up. I'm going to click on OK twice, and then you see that this new column has been inserted. And of course, as soon as we've got a new column here, I can sort by category, and I can easily filter by category as well. So that's another good way of just keeping everything together. I do use categories in my calendar. So if we go to the calendar, and you'll notice that I'm not using my real calendar because it looks far too busy, and it would there's some clients' details there. So I'm just using a dummy calendar for today. But what I can do is whenever I insert an appointment, I can add a category here. And usually I use that so that I know whether I need to leave the house and travel somewhere, or whether it's an online meeting like this one, then I colour it in green, and then I know that I don't need to move. I'm in the right place. And that just helps me identify what's in my calendar just at a glance, without me having to spend too much time looking at it. So categories are a great way just to stay organised and just make things a lot clearer and a lot easier. So it's just a bit like having a bunch of highlighters with you and highlighting in your diary a sort of colour code. So who thinks, let me know in the chat box if you think you might start using categories. or more specifically, what you might use categories for. Let me know in the chat box how you might use categories in your work. Okay, so Carrie says she's going to use it for meetings. That might help you figure out where in the country you're meant to be, Carrie. So yeah, that's a good colour code to have. Anyone else know how they might use them? So yeah, Douglas, client by client, that's a good one. I've got a few clients that highlight a specific colour, and that just lets me know, for example, at the end of the month, who I'm billing, because it's very easy to forget where you've been when you look at it that way. So yeah, Douglas, that would work for you as well, I'm sure. Okay, so that's categories, and remember all of this is laid out for you in the handout that you'll get shortly after this webinar, so you don't need to try and remember everything. I'm going to send it to you. Okay, tip number 4, we're staying in the calendar, and my tip number 4 is around recurring events. So I'm sure we all have, you know, regular things that we have to do, whether that's a monthly report or a sort of weekly conference call or something like that. We can set up these recurring events so that we don't need to keep thinking about them all the time. I think what Outlook is great for is it's great for letting you take out some of the things that are swimming around in your head, and just it holds them all so that you don't need to think about it. So if we were creating a new appointment, let's say for later on today, and I'm just going to call it new event, but this is going to be a weekly occurrence. I can click on this icon here and then choose recurrence and click on these settings in order to put it into my diary for the same time every week. So this is available on a Mac as well, and it looks very similar actually. So same kind of, you know, it looks exactly the same actually. So really easy. So you'll see here that I can change it to recur every week or every month. I can even change it to every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. So there's every 3 weeks I host a Twitter chat for Perthshire Hour. So this is one of the great things about Outlook, is that I can set this recurrence for every 3 weeks so that I remember when it's my turn. And down here you'll notice that you can actually end the recurrence. So for example, if I was doing a 10-week course somewhere, I can make sure that this ends after 10 occurrences, and I don't need to worry about, you know, my diary being full for too long. So all I'm saying really is make the most of this, actually use it, because it is really good and it avoids you having to sort of put lots of things into your diary every Monday when you know that they're regular occurrences, and it means you don't need to think about things. Karen, welcome back. Welcome back. We lost you for a bit there. Welcome back. Okay, so that was tip number 4. Moving on then to tip number 5, which is around assigning tasks. Now, unfortunately, this is not available on Mac at the moment, but it is really good in Outlook. Douglas, I think you had asked about this one. So assigning tasks. So if we go into the task view, just down here, the wee clipboard. In fact, let me know in the chat box, does everyone use tasks? Let me know in the chat box if you already use tasks or not. Okay, so Karen says nope, but desperately need to. No one so far uses it. A couple of people use it sometimes. I must admit, it's not really something that I use all that often, but it can be used really well. And it can be used really well if you have some colleagues that are also using it. So the beauty of tasks is really when you've got a whole team of people using tasks in the same way, then you can sort of streamline your processes, because everyone will just have a task that they need to complete in you know, everything's a lot more systemized that way. So let me show you how to assign tasks. If I click on a new task, I would just complete all the information, and you'll notice that it looks very similar to your calendar. You know, to setting up a new appointment, looks very similar to that, and you're entering in similar information. Of course, you've got start dates as well as due dates, so I can put a deadline on something. I can also say I'm not actually going to start it until probably not the Sunday, probably the Monday beforehand. I can set a specific reminder on a different day as well, at specific times, and I can change the task, so I can keep updating the task as to how close I am to completing it. And remember, of course, this big white box down here is where you would keep the information about the task. Okay, of course, remember that I can categorize it, so I can color code it as well. So I might want to color code it with a specific client's color or something like that. And then I can assign the task to someone else. So by clicking that assign task, it then brings up this to field, just a bit like sending a appointment, a meeting request does in your calendar. It does the same kind of idea. But my top tip here really is only to use this if you're actually telling your other colleagues that you're using it this way as well. Because if you just assign a task to them, I'm not sure how happy they would be. So yeah, speak to them first. But the good thing about this is once they've been assigned the task, of course, then they can update the task and mark it as complete, or give you sort of status reports on the task as well. So there is lots of things that can be done there. You can even share task lists and things like that with your colleagues as well. And that just takes a wee bit of setting up in the first instance. So I'm just going to hit no there and come out of that. So let's go back to the slides. So back at the slides then, and so we've covered tips 1 to 5 so far. So out of the 5 tips that we've looked at so far, let me know if there's any that you're going to go away and try. What's been your favourite tip so far? Let me know, just using that chat box again. I will just reiterate that I'm here myself today, so I'm trying to keep my eye on the chat pane as well as everything else that's going on my screens. So Karen is going to have a go at recurring tasks, recurring events rather, and tasks. Hazel's going to colour code everything using categories. Excellent. Carrie's looking at flagging and sorting columns. I'm sure that will save you lots of time searching for different things. Douglas, using flags and categories most often. Yep, all good so far. So next up, we're going to look at tips number 6 to 10. So I'm going to start with rules and then quick steps. Rules and quick steps are quite similar to each other. So I'm just going to walk you through each of them and then explain the difference between the two, and then we'll look at the last 3 as well. So I'm going to go back to my desktop. Okay, so rules. I'm going to go back to my inbox for this. Okay, so who uses rules? Does anyone have a rule set up? So let me know in the chat box if you do. But for those of you that don't, rules can be set up on pretty much any version of Outlook to automatically file emails into particular folders. So yeah, Douglas, it can help you with archiving, although you're probably better using archiving there. So you can assign policies to different emails so that you either delete them after so many months, or you can set up different policies so that you can move them into a different folder after so many weeks or months. Karen, you're looking forward to this one. Okay. So, for example, every time I receive an email from Emily at Blinkist, which is an app that I use that if you're if you're reading the blogs from this week around my tools for learning, Blinkist is one of my favourites. It summarises books and lets me read whole books in about 15 minutes, which is great. And then of course I end up buying the whole book after that. But let's say that I don't want these cluttering up my inbox. I just want them put in their own folder or moved somewhere else. I can do that using rules. Okay, so back in the inbox view, click on the email that I'm thinking about, and then up on the home tab, I'm going to click on rules, and you'll see here it's already suggesting what I want to do is always move messages from Emily somewhere else, or I can click create rule. So when I click create rule, I've got all these different options, and I just tick the boxes that I need. So when I get email from this particular person, I'm not going to tick these boxes, but I could narrow it down and say when the subject contains particular text. Then I can do any of these things. So I might want to play a sound, so I might have particular clients that I want to be able to respond to really quickly. So I could choose to select an email from one of those clients, tick that box and play a sound when they email me. But in this instance, I want to move it to a folder. And then it'll allow me to pick a particular folder. Okay. Lots of different things you can do here if you click on that advanced options button. You can set up lots of different rules, but the most common rule, the one that I see most often, is moving emails automatically into a specified folder, and it's usually when it's newsletters and not junk, but newsletters and things like that you don't want to stop what you're doing for. You just want to file away so that you can read them when you've got the time, and that's a really good good use of a rule. Douglas has just asked a great question, and that's, can the rules be applied retrospectively? So in this instance, yes, they can, because as soon as I click OK, it's going to ask me if I want to run the rule for messages already in the folder. So if I tick that box, then it would go through my whole inbox and file all the emails in that folder. So even just setting up a rule to do that every so often, is great, because that's one way of filing everything automatically for you. So I could say OK, and it would all be done. Okay, I've actually moved it into the same folder that I'm showing you today, so you can't actually see that taking effect, but it would be removed from my inbox and went straight into that other folder. The only thing I will point out is, if you do set up rules to do things like that, you just need to bear in mind that they won't come into your inbox at all. So you won't see them up here when they come in. They won't, you won't get your number won't increase on your inbox, because they will bypass your inbox and go straight into whichever folder. So you just need to make sure that you keep your eye on that folder and don't miss any emails that way. But again, a really useful one if you like to file things in folders. That can do it all for you. So that's rules, and I'm going to move straight on to quick steps because the two are fairly similar. So rules are something that happens automatically. So once you've created a rule, you don't even need to think about it. You don't need to do anything to action that rule. Outlook will be doing that rule for you all the time. With quick steps, however, quick steps are more of a shortcut. So it allows you to create a set of actions that Outlook will perform for you when you trigger it. Okay, so that's the biggest difference there. So for example, I actually might really like to see these CIPD newsletters coming into my inbox. Might like to know that they're there and I want them into my inbox. So I don't want to create a rule so that they just get filed. Instead, what I want to do is create a real quick way of me being able to move them into a folder. And we all know that we can just drag and drop and things like that. But if I wanted to create a quick step up here, in this quick step gallery as they call it, we've got some options here. So if I wanted to move that to a folder, obviously I would choose this one to start. I'm going to click on this arrow to see more. I'm going to go down to custom because there's all these options. But if I go down to custom, I can show you them all, I think. So I would create a shortcut name, and then these are all the different actions that you can have. So I could choose move to a folder, and that means when a particular email comes in, I can just click that button up at the top that says move to folder, and it will know where to file it, which might be useful. Some of these ones further down are more useful. So again, these are things about flagging, but again, your buttons are just there, so it's not that time. It's not great at time saving. The best, trying to find a good example. So probably the best kind of examples are things like this. So create an appointment with the text in the message. So if emails are going back and forward and we're arranging a meeting, but they've perhaps typed the agenda in the body of the email, then I can click this button here and it would allow me to create an appointment just with a couple of clicks, and all the information from within the email would be in that calendar appointment. So that saves me time then going into the email and copying and pasting the agenda into my calendar appointment. I've got everything in the one place and it's done all of that for me. So that's a really good quick step. And I'm going to come out of this and just point out some of these, which is to manager. So if you work in an organisation where your Outlook has been set up and it knows who you report to, you can click that button and it would automatically just send an email to your manager. Also, if you work in an organisation and you've got Outlook set up properly, you can click team email and it would email everyone in your team. And that's using the directory that's been set up behind the scenes from your IT department. So these are really good if everything's been sort of set up for you. Okay, so managing quick steps is a different thing to rules because you still need to press the button, but it's a quicker way of you performing tasks performing a series of actions that you would normally do quite often. Okay, as I mentioned briefly, quick steps are not available on Mac. Rules are though, so you can use rules, just not quick steps. Everyone okay with those two? Everyone okay with the difference between rules and quick steps and how you might use them? Yeah? Douglas, yep. Yep, okay, great. Okay, fab, everybody's happy with that. Okay, last few tips are probably the easiest tips. So tip number 8 is around search. So let me know in the chat box if you actually use search. I use it all the time, and sometimes I forget that not everyone knows how easy it is, because Outlook search is brilliant. And I must admit that I tend not to have too many folders at the side because I prefer just everything in the one place, and it allows me to search. Yep, so Douglas and Carrie are both using search quite often. It's here, it's just this box here that's always at the top. On a Mac, it's up here in the blue bar at the top. On Windows, it tends to be just above your kind of inbox here. And so I can just type in there. I've obviously searched for movie before, so I'm going to search for that again. And it brings up all the emails that mention that. You'll notice as soon as I click into the search box that this new ribbon appears at the top. So I can search, I can filter my search results based on all of these different things here, which may or may not help. Usually if you have a specific enough text, I mean, I suppose if your inbox is overflowing and you've got, you work very closely with one particular colleague, searching for their name is not going to yield that many, is not going to help you much. But searching for specific text within the subject or even within the body of the message might help. And then of course you can start to narrow it down by clicking on these boxes, these buttons here. So that is search. Really easy, and most of you are seem to be using that anyway, so that is great. Okay, tip number 9 is folders. So let me know in the chat box if you use folders, or if you prefer just to dump everything in the same place in your inbox. Let me know in the chat box how you use folders. Okay, so a lot of you are saying that you do use folders. So I think everyone probably knows how to set up a folder. Let me know in the chat box if you don't know how to set up your own folders, and I'll show you, but I think most people know that. I think the key here is what folders you use. So over the years, I've had lots of systems in place, but the one that I stick to most often is filing emails by the action that I've got to do rather than who they're from or the topic that they relate to, if that makes sense. So in previous lives, I've had folders all down the left-hand side of all of the different contacts, all the different people that email me or different organisations, and I've tried to file everything that way. It just means that there's somewhere else that I need to search. So that doesn't tend to work for me. I've also tried filing things based on topics, so different projects that I'm working on or different kind of subject matters. And again, that just means that there's different folders for me to look in. There's more places for me to try and find things. But what does work for me is a folder that's clearly marked read. And therefore, usually for newsletters that I do want to read, but I've not got time right now, or for emails from people just with information for me that I need to read at some point, but it's not necessarily needing to interrupt my day. So read's good. I've also got probably my favourite folder is my rainy day folder, and that's where I put emails that have prompted ideas or things that I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it, one day. So webinar recordings, things that I've signed up to but not quite got around to watching, might go in my rainy day folder. And as I think we're all based in Scotland today, we can safely say that there are enough rainy days for that folder to get cleared every so often. So I think it's about thinking about how you use folders. And to be honest, if they're not working for you, if you're losing things in folders, then don't bother. Just get rid of all your folders and keep everything in your inbox. Just make sure that you're either archiving or deleting emails every so often, because you don't want too much in your inbox, because it will just take up valuable space. So my goodness, that was tip number 9. So I've only got one more to go. And tip number 10 is automatic replies. So commonly known as out of office, you can ask Outlook to automatically reply to emails on your behalf. So let me know in the chat box if this is something you use. I would suspect most of us do use this, especially when we go on holiday. Let me know if that's something that you do set. Okay, so Karen, you have used it before, but not at the moment. And Douglas, you don't use it very often as you've always got your phone on. I can totally I feel your pain there. So yeah, I might. So you don't get any holidays either. Oh dear. So yeah, setting out automatic replies. Remember, you don't need to use this just when you're on holiday. You could use this if you just wanted to send a note to someone. So I usually, so if we go into File, it's here. So File and then Automatic Replies. This is where you'll find it. And I will usually say something like, I'm out of the office with limited access to my email which means that, yes, Douglas, I've always got my phone in my hand, and I will actually see your email, but if it's something that needs a lengthy response, I wouldn't be answering it today. That's kind of what it means. So again, it's not necessarily the buttons you click, is it? It's about thinking about how best you might use it, just to manage people's expectations, because today, nowadays people email you and most people do expect a almost instant response. So you could set up an automatic reply just to sort of manage that and let people know that you're not going to respond instantly. So the key here is to make sure you tick the box that says send automatic replies. You can specify a particular time range if you want, or just switch it on, and then when you come back into your Outlook, it will prompt you to turn it back off. And the other thing to point out would be that you can set replies both. You can set a different reply to people within your organisation, so people that have the same domain as you, or people outside your organisation. And also note here the different formatting tools, so you can actually make it look a bit more interesting than it actually gives you there. Okay, on a Mac, it's not under File, it's under Tools, I think. So up at the top, you've got Tools, haven't you? Up there, and you'll be able to click Tools, and then Out of Office it's called on Mac, whereas it's called Automatic Replies now in Windows. So that brings me to the end of the tips, I think. So that was number 10. So I'm going to go back to my slides, and I'll pop my video back on so that you can see me again as well. So that was us, all 10 tips there. So let me know in the chat box, out of all of the 10 tips, which are you going to try this week or within the next few days? Let me know which ones you think are going to be most useful for you. Just let me know in the chat box there. So Carrie's saying flags, definitely. Yep, flags can be good, but you can't flag everything, Carrie. Or that'll just end up even more overwhelming. Karen says, me and rules are going to become acquainted. And Douglas is going to have a dabble with rules. Great, and we'll try to set some up. Excellent. So I'm glad that you found something useful within those top 10 tips. And as I said, I will send a handout that means you can refer back to it to work your way through each of them as well. So thank you all so very much for joining this webinar. As I said, this is a special because it's Learning at Work Week. So as a participant of Learning at Work Week, you do have free access to the members area within the River Park website. So if you go to the website and just click log in, you'll be able to sign up. Just sign up using the same email address you used to register for this webinar, and I'll approve your request, and you can get access to all the materials in there until the end of July. So have a go at that, and yeah, I'll be in touch with the handout as well, and make sure you connect with me on social media if you've not already done so, and yeah, I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.